Good morning and welcome to NASA headquarters in Washington for the NASA Astronaut Joe Acaba Social. I'm Trent Parado, Public Affairs Officer for NASA's Human Exploration and Operations Directorate. I'm joined by about 150 guests here for a very special opportunity to hear from astronaut Joe Acaba about his experiences in space, having just returned from the International Space Station in September. We're particularly excited he was able to participate in a NASA Social. For those of you who don't know, perhaps those of you joining us virtually at home, a NASA Social is an event where we ask people following one of NASA's social media accounts to come to a NASA center for a unique behind-the-scenes look at some of the work that we're doing. So folks here have an opportunity to see some of our facilities, meet some of the people, and we know that everyone around the world can't come to a NASA center, which we love. So this is an opportunity for everyone here to help tell the story from their unique perspective as to NASA's work and some of the experiences they're having. We hope that you here are inspired by the experience you have here today, and that as you share, the people following you will be inspired and learn new things as well. Now, some may characterize the biography of our guest of honor as particularly inspirational. Some would call it humbling, but here are the highlights. NASA astronaut Joe Acaba was born in Inglewood, California, but he considers nearby Anaheim his hometown. He's logged a total of 138 days in space during 2 missions. He was selected as an astronaut in 2004 and completed his training in 2006. His first trip to space came in 2009 aboard STS-119, which was the 36th flight of the Space Shuttle Discovery. The primary objective of this flight was to deliver the final pair of power-generating solar array wings and truss element to the International Space Station. Joe accumulated 12 hours and 57 minutes outside the station on 2 different spacewalks. He returned to the International Space Station this last May through September, spending 123 days aboard the orbiting laboratory as a flight engineer of the Expedition 31 and 32 crews. While aboard, he supported the arrival of the first commercial resupply spacecraft, SpaceX's Dragon, on its demonstration mission to the orbiting laboratory. He was there for an undocking, redocking, and final undocking demonstration of the Russian ISS Progress 47 cargo ship, the first single-day launch to docking demonstration of Progress 48, and the arrival and departure of the third Japanese cargo ship HTV-3. He also served as intravehicular crew member for 2 U.S.-based spacewalks, helping to restore a critical power unit and exchange a faulty camera on the station's robotic arm. He also participated in numerous scientific research experiments and performed regular maintenance and operational tasks aboard the orbiting laboratory. Prior to becoming an astronaut, Joe worked as a hydrogeologist in Los Angeles. He spent 2 years in the United States Peace Corps. He's also an educator, having taught a year of high school science at Melbourne High School in Florida and 4 years of middle school math and science at Denellen Middle School in Florida. We're very excited he's here. Please help me give a warm NASA social welcome to NASA astronaut Joe Acaba.
Wow. Good morning. It's great to be here. That's quite the introduction. I appreciate that. It was nice getting here a few minutes early to have a chance to chat with some of you. So thank you very much for coming out and supporting what we do at NASA. We have, I don't know, it's about an hour or so. And so I have a short video that will go through our flight. So 4 months and about 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And instead of me talking as a teacher, I know that there's nothing more boring than hearing somebody else speak. So I will stop as soon as I can so that you guys can ask me your questions, because I know that's what you're interested in. So with that, are we good? I'll see if I can see it. Maybe. There we go. All right, and I have it in front of me, so this is great. It's good NASA technology. So I was part of Expedition 31, 32. I went up on Soyuz 30, so we make it very complicated for people to realize what mission we were part of.
And then the other is, we had our press conference
so
last week.
here's a short piece where we talk about
the
main difference between a shuttle flight and a space station mission is that on a shuttle flight, it's very clear on what you're going to do. You have 2 weeks, and you're going to go ahead, and we were going to put up the last set of solar arrays. When it comes to a space station mission, you have no idea what you're going to do. You know there's going to be some visiting vehicles that are going to come up. There may be an EVA, but what you're going to do day to day is really uncertain. And that's one of the most exciting things about being up there for a long period of time, is that you don't know what you're going to do every day. So I had 2 different sets of crewmates for Expedition 31. We had them, and then the guys from 32 came up. Sunny, Aki, and Yuri just got back maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, so they're freshly back on the ground. And the training right now takes about 2.5 years for the entire space station training flow. It's a long time. We spend about half of that overseas, whether it be in Canada, Germany, Japan, and of course a lot of time in Russia since we're launching on a Russian vehicle. The training is it's pretty intensive. We do everything from food sampling, which is one of my favorite things to do, and we do a lot of emergency training. It's one of the things that we spend a lot of time on, and we hope we never have to use it. And we've been, pretty lucky so far that we haven't had a situation like that, but we're very well prepared. We knew we were going to have one spacewalk. We ended up having 2, and then Sunny and Aki ended up having a 3rd one. So again, you never know what's going to happen when you're on the space station. And the facilities at the Johnson Space Center are incredible. You can see here that they even, in one of the mock-ups there, they can pump in smoke, and if they don't disarm the fire detectors in the building, they go off sometimes. Not that it's ever happened. Since I launched with 2 Russian crewmates, most of my training was by myself. So here, this is a little misleading that we're showing a lot of training as a crew of 6. But when you launch with 2 Russians, I really did not spend much time with Don or Andre or Sunny and Aki until I got on orbit. I spent a lot of time on the robotics training. I knew for the EVAs it was going to be very robotic arm intensive, so I spent a lot of time there. And here we are in Russia. Russia's a cool place. It is. They have a great program. It was really an honor to work with those guys, and they have a lot of traditions. That was the tree planting that every Soyuz crew member will do. Lots of traditions. You know I wasn't launching in Florida when you see this picture. It was not photoshopped. We couldn't have done it any better, and pretty cool to be out there running with camels about a week before you launch. And again, another tradition is to sign the door. Next time I'll bring my own pen so it'll actually work. And what's cool about the launching in Russia, other than getting a nice bath before the before the launch, is that it's a lot more personal. My family went out there. You can actually see the rocket being brought out a couple of days in advance. My family's there in the audience. And so for them, they felt a lot more part of the process, and they keep telling me how much they enjoyed the trip. So we head out to the launch pad about 6 hours before launch. And you're feeling pretty good at this time. We've done this, we've trained, and and when you fly with Gennady Padalka, one of the most experienced cosmonauts ever, you're in good hands, and it's comforting to know that you're launching with someone like that. And so a few hours before launch, we get into our Sokol suits and we do a pressure check. And it's amazing how, I say it's elegant, the spacesuit, because it's really simple, but it does what it needs to do. You have a little rubber tie that's holding your suit closed, and that's your lifeline. That was one of my favorite shots with our suits inflated. And my family's there off to the right. My mom, my dad, my sister made it out. And so they get to be part of all of this, even though they're behind the glass. Here we're checking our suits one last time. And they give you maybe 30 minutes to sit there and chat with your family one last time. On a shuttle flight, we never would have done that. At this point, we are, game faces on, you're ready to get out to the shuttle. And here we are walking out, again, another tradition, saluting to the commission. It's very hard to walk in those suits. It's not the most flattering of suits, as you can tell. And then you get a chance for one more photo op before you get up in. And very similar to the shuttle, you get in a few hours before launch. Launches kind of speak for themselves. Very similar in terms of the G-force that you feel on the going into Soyuz as you would with the shuttle. One thing that impressed me is that it wasn't as violent, didn't shake as much as it did on our shuttle flight. So it was smooth sailing. We enjoyed every moment of it, from when we launched to before we launched, during the launch, and our time on orbit. I just had a great couple of crewmates, but you can see it's crowded. You know, I'm a little guy, and when I'm in there for 6 hours, your knees start to feel it. And it takes about a total of 6 hours from when you get in the vehicle until you get out. If you had a good eye, you saw Smokey Bear, and we'll talk more about Smokey a little bit later. And so after about 2 days of living in a very small can, you arrive to the International Space Station. And it's a nice feeling to have that hatch opened, and now you're out, you have a lot more room, and of course really nice to see our crewmates that we've been waiting for quite a while to get up there. And so of course as soon as you get done, you have some time to chat with the family. And to that young man that was here that said his mom was embarrassing him, here my parents are, they're singing happy birthday to me in front of the world. So for you kids out there, your parents are always going to embarrass you. Just get used to it, embrace it, so they don't waste any opportunity. But I did arrive on my birthday, so it was a pretty cool birthday present to arrive on that day. And then you get to work, and for us it was, even though the mission was only 4 months long, it was packed. 4 days after we arrived, the Dragon demo showed up. And so there was really no time to adapt. It just had to blend in with the plan that Don and Andre had. And working in the cupola, you can see it's crowded. The sun's going up and down, so sometimes you need to have sunglasses on, sometimes you need a flashlight. Don did a great job capturing the vehicle. And of course, everybody smiles afterwards. The tension level definitely goes down a lot once you grab that vehicle. Robonaut, the space station is complicated, as you can see there. There's things all over the place. The payloads are complicated, and that's part of the reason why the training is so long. But it's fun, because every day you're doing different types of science, whether you're getting ready for a spacewalk. This is a satellite that the Russians deployed during their spacewalk. And before you know it, 2 months have passed, and these guys are heading home. And then you're up on the space station by yourself as a person going up with 2 Russians. And so I'm up there, I have the space station to myself for a couple weeks, and it's really a nice time. I was talking to Kevin Ford, who's there now, and he's up there by himself with the 2 Russian cosmonauts. And it really is a peaceful time. We do everything from drawing blood, like you saw, to doing experiments, looking at capillary action for new types of tanks to use in space. I am a former Peace Corps volunteer, so I had to put the shirt on while we did our EVA. And Sonny Naki did a tremendous job. If you followed the spacewalks at all, it was pretty exciting, even though we moved very slowly up there. First EVA didn't go as planned, and so the NASA engineers, they worked their miracles like they always tend to do, and they came up with ways for us to fix the problem. And on the second EVA, we were able to do it. We did things that we never trained to do, but that's kind of a testament to what we do in our training and the engineers that get things ready for us. So while they were outside, I was inside flying the arm. Here's one of the tools. I'm sure you heard about the toothbrush that we took outside that worked really well. And you know, you kind of go from one thing to the other. You're doing science, and the next thing you know, HTV is showing up. And it was up there for about a month. And it's a great vehicle. Here it is leaving us in an unexpected fashion. There's always surprises up in space. And I got there, and 4 days later, Dragon showed up. 4 days before I came home, HTV went back. So it was from the beginning to the end, we were really busy. We have a partnership with Smokey Bear and the U.S. Forest Service. And you know, we're just trying to bring more awareness to our natural environment. And it was very timely. While we were up there, we had all those serious forest fires out in Colorado. And we were able to get some really good footage that we could send down to help them kind of look at where the fire's going, the shape of the fire, Smokey hanging out in space. And there's a long history between the Forest Service and NASA. Another one of my favorite pictures with the water bubble, and Andre did a good job taking that. It's not painful. They weren't punching me in the stomach. It's how we measure mass on the space station. We'll talk a little bit more about working out, but the great thing about where you work out is you see me going down into the cupola, so you can be doing a bench press and you have the best view of the Earth. So for those people that don't want to work out, I bet you if you had that view, you'd be out there more often. You can't beat it. Being in microgravity is good and bad. Here you can see it's easy. You can spin around, you can get to where you need to go very easily, but there are challenges. Things escape from you. I was there for a couple days and lost a watch on my second day, so it's kind of embarrassing. Then you have to ask the ground, can I get a new watch? And luckily Don found it for me a few days later. But we do have fun. We work hard, but who doesn't like spinning in space? It's one of the cool parts about being up there for a long period of time, and you really never get tired of it. And of course, you never get tired of the view. Wonderful shots out of the cupola. Whether it's daytime, nighttime, you don't get tired of it. And if we didn't have to work, we could spend all day. On a Sunday, you can go there with a book and just read a book looking out the window. It was pretty cool. The food on orbit is good. We got together probably twice a week. This was a little buffet that Sonny put together, and we actually had some lobster that came up in a can. It was pretty tasty. Here's my bedroom. That's about all the space you get. It's about the size of a fairly, decent sized closet. Of course, we sleep in bags and not in beds, so you don't float away in the middle of the night. It's really comfortable. You have a couple of computers you can use in there, of course. I had a book I could read. It's just nice to have your own personal space. Exercise is very important. We work out for about 2 hours a day. Here we are on the treadmill. This is the resistive device, so above my head is the cupola. And so you can do a full suite of exercises that really keep you in good shape. And being up there for 4 months, I felt like I was in a kind of spa resort. I came back in probably the best shape of my life after 4 months. And then before you know it, it's your time to go home, and we have the official handover ceremony.
Thank our 32 crewmates here who have taught us how to live and work in space, and of course to have a lot of fun up in space.
And so when we left, Gennady was the commander. He handed over to Sonny, who took over the helm for the last couple of months. And it's sad to leave. 4 months was definitely not long enough. I wish I would have had 4 more. And landing on the Soyuz is not quite as elegant as the space shuttle. But you can see that it is fairly violent. Carla did a great job with that picture. It's a beauty. She's seen me at my worst coming out of the vehicle and got some good photos. But the Russians have a great system. You saw the helicopter was there. I mean, these guys were all over us before we even hit the ground. And they take good care of you when you get back. Luckily, it was a beautiful day in September, and nothing but smiles when you come home. It's just, you want to stay in space as long as you can because you never know when you're going back, but it's always nice to come back to Earth. It's just, you come out, you see the grass, you smell it. Walking wasn't too easy. I'm not dead. I'm just, it's a picture. I don't know how they got that picture, but I like it because it looks like, that's it. I can see what I might look like someday. So once you land, it's a 2-hour helicopter to get to the NASA plane, and then from the NASA plane, you head straight back to the Johnson Space Center. And I think for us, from the moment we hit the Earth, I was back in Houston 23 hours and 10 minutes later. So it's kind of weird. You're up on the space station, working, having a great time, and then, about 24 hours later, you're back in Houston all over again. So it's a quick process. But anyway, that was 4 months in space in about 15 minutes. I'm always changing it. This is the newest version, so if you have comments, I'm sure they're being sent out there right now. I'll have to follow and see what I need to change for the next group. But anyway, like I said, I don't want to give you a speech. I'd rather answer your questions, and you guys it's your show now, and this is my first social media thing, so you got to let me know what the protocols are, and if I'm talking too much, too little, just don't be shy.
All right, so we'll start the Q&A. We have a couple of microphones that'll be going around, so please first introduce yourself and then wait till we get a mic for you. And we have first one here.
Hi,
Hello.
Jason. Hi, I'm Allison Wilgus. It's nice to meet you. So you were talking about the toothbrush that you guys use to get the metal threads out. So obviously in space, sometimes things don't work the way that they're supposed to, and you're very isolated, so you have to make do. Are there any other improvisations that you guys came up with during your time in space that you're particularly proud of or think are interesting?
Well, luckily, when it came time for the spacewalk, there's a whole army of engineers that are working for NASA, and they make us look really good. And so they only had a couple of days from when we knew we had a problem to when we had the next spacewalk. And so to look at what they gave us in a short period of time, that what we had to create was really impressive. So I wish we could take the credit, but they did most of that. But every day up there, you're improvising, whether it be, Don and I had to do some little jumpers, and you had to come up with a way to do that. You plan for things to work a certain way, and the ground always has a good plan, but you just never know if it's going to work. And that's one of the best things about being up there, is you are improvising pretty much every single day. And so for those young kids that are out here, and Don and I talked a lot about this, you want to be book smart. You need to know your sciences, your engineering, your mathematics, and all that. But you also need to have common sense and be good with working with your hands, because that's what we do 90% of the time that we're up there. So it's important to have that balance. And so study hard. And if your parents have a car, ask permission, but go see if you can work on the car. Those are all good skills, and if you take the parents' car apart, it wasn't my fault.
Okay, next question's center back.
Hi, Jeff Wallace, Rocketman 528. Could you share with us perhaps 3 of your most challenging practical things that you had to deal with, on a day-to-day basis that maybe you weren't expecting, or you heard about it and was more difficult than you thought?
Wow, 3 of them. Well, one of them's easy. Going to the bathroom in space is not an easy process. And of course, you have to do that every day, at least once a day. So that's a challenge, but our engineers, again, they do a good job. Let me see. Doing the spacewalk and working the robotic arm, it's a challenging event. When you're the person that's inside, you have to get up early. You get things ready for the guys that are going outside. You put them in their suits, and as soon as they go out the door, now you're rushing over to get the robotic arm going. And then as soon as they come back in, their day's kind of done, but you still need to get them out of the suit and take care of things. So that makes for a really long and brain-intensive day. Let me see, a third thing. You can never prepare enough for a landing in a Soyuz vehicle. People will tell you about it. We talk with astronauts that have recently returned, and you know how violent it can be, but when the parachute opens and you feel like you're tumbling over a cliff, you can't really prepare for that. So it was exciting, and so after the parachute opens, hitting the ground that's easy, because it's just boom, and then you're done. So I think those are my 3.
Let's go to, let's stay with Becky here in the back if we could. Yep.
Hi, I'm Aiden, and I do have a question. And my question is, why did all countries come together to build the space station?
Was it why?
Why
Yep.
did all the countries come together to build a space station?
Very cool question. So going to space is very complicated. It's difficult, but it's also very expensive. And so by having all these countries come together, you have a lot of expertise coming from all of these different nations. You also have that financial support that comes from the different groups. So I think there's a practical reason, there in terms of money, but also in terms of experience. The Russians do things one way, we do things a different way. Then you have JAXA, you have ESA. We all do things differently, and at times it can be difficult to work together, but really we complement each other. And so it really, for us to do these complicated things, we live on one planet, so it makes sense for us to work together to have an International Space Station. And it really is. I was up there, we had the Dutch astronaut, we had Aki, the Japanese, we had a couple of Russians. I have a Puerto Rican background, Sunny has an Indian background, so it was pretty cool to have that International Space Station and be part of that.
Back to the left.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Jeff Sugar. Can you compare and contrast the condition the space station was in when you visited back on STS-119 compared to your most recent visit?
Yeah, it was nice to see the change, and Jeff was one of my robotic arm instructors way back when, so he's seen me at my worst also. The biggest thing, I guess, is the cupola and Note 3 were up there, and that adds a lot of room with the where you have the exercise device and things like that. So it probably would be just the size of it and having that beautiful view. But again, the big difference is on the shuttle flight, when you came onto the International Space Station, you were kind of a visitor and you didn't really know where things were, and you had to ask permission before you did anything. And now it's this is my house, and you get to feel comfortable, and you're there a lot longer. You have your bedroom. On the shuttle flight, every night, we slept somewhere different, just wherever you can find a wall to put your sleeping bag. So it much more comfortable, and the shuttle flight was awesome. I'm so happy to have had that experience, but living on the space station for 4 months was really, really cool.
Down here to the center, back row. Yep.
Hi, I'm Laura Ganley. I'm a teacher at Liberty Elementary School in South Riding. And we are a STEM school, science, technology, engineering, and math. So we talk a lot about problem solving and critical thinking. And I wondered if there was ever a time while you were out in space that you had to solve some sort of problem.
I'm glad you bring that up. We talk a lot about having the book knowledge, but really having those 21st century skills, knowing how to do the critical thinking, knowing how to work together is important. And I would say, again, every day we have that challenge of having to use those critical thinking skills. You're given a procedure, and if you were to do it word by word, you may get it done, but a lot of it is this is their best attempt on how you're going to work that problem, and it almost never works out that way. And so everything you do is critical thinking. Another cool part is that we're working with scientists on the ground, and they have their experiment lined up. But the reason why we're doing these experiments is we don't know a lot of what's going to happen. So we did some experiments with fire and flame, and so they have an idea of how it's going to work, but you may discover something new, and you're the person up there, they're watching you, but you really need to be the one tweaking the experiment a little bit and trying to make their results a little bit more exciting and give them new things. And so we're every day using those skills. So I'm glad, thank you very much for teaching those skills, because they're extremely valuable, not only to be an astronaut, but just, as you know, working every day.
Let's go to the back right.
Hi, my name is Jacob Smith. What do you guys drink out of so the water doesn't float away in space?
Good question. Like I said, living in space is it's fun, floating and flying, but it's also, it can be a little annoying, like things floating away from you. And so to drink, we have bags that either they're empty that we can put water in. If you want to have coffee, we have bags with coffee already in there, different types of fruit drinks. And so you fill the bags up, and then we have straws that you can put inside, and the straws have a little clip so that when you're done drinking, you can clip the straw and things won't float out. Every now and then you forget to clip the straw, or it comes out of your mouth, and then you have stuff that flies all over the place. But it's you get used to drinking out of a bag.
Down to the front left again.
Hi, my name is Paul Starr. You mentioned that you were alone on the ISS for a while. Do you mean that you were actually the sole astronaut on
Yes.
board? And if so, could you talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, sorry, I probably was a little misleading. I was the sole U.S. crew member on the space station, so I was up there with my 2 Russian crewmates. And when you go from a crew of 6, the space station's big. It's about the size of a 5-bedroom house. But when you have 6 people up there, you're moving all over the place, and it's hard to get your quiet time. But when you're the sole U.S. crew member up there, most of the day, your Russian crewmates are working on the Russian segment. So you have a good 2/3 of the space station all to yourself, and it's pretty cool. You can just kind of do what you want, looking out the window, just knowing that you have that peace and quiet. You get up in the morning, everybody's still asleep. It's just it's really a special time. It's a little more nerve-wracking because if anything happens, you're the only U.S. crew member up there, and so it adds a little bit more pressure on your everyday living, but it's pretty cool. I love Sonny and Aki and Yuri. I was happy when they got there, but I enjoyed the time that I was up there by myself.
Let's take this gentleman in the front, center, and then we'll go back to the back.
How you doing, Mark DeVito? You mentioned earlier that it took 2 days from the time of launch to when you rendezvoused with the space station. What causes the delay in the additional orbits and time?
Yep, so it's a 2-day process, and really it's all about getting synced up with the International Space Station. And so it's all the smart people that know about orbital dynamics. They calculate the different burns that we have to do to not only get to the right orbit, the same orbit as the International Space Station, but to also catch up to it. And very similar to the space shuttle, it was the same thing, about 2 days to get there. It's not required, like we talked about earlier. They did do a straight, from launch to the International Space Station, and it took, I want to say somewhere, maybe it's 4 orbits to catch up and do those burns. And so we're looking at possibly doing that with crew members instead of spending those 2 days going straight to the International Space Station. So they've proven that you can do it. It does have some cons, and now that you need to be in your spacesuit for a much longer period of time. When we do the 2 days, after the 6 hours, we get out of our suits and we're just in regular clothes for most of the time. And then when we dock to the space station, we put our Sokol suits back on. But if you're going to go straight there, you may be able to get out of your suit for a short period of time, use the restroom, maybe get something to eat, but then you're right back in your suit. So you're going to be in your suit, more like a 12-hour period. And for me, I'd rather get there, as soon as I can. But it's good bonding with your crewmates to live in a little bubble for 2 days. It was cool.
Let's go all the way to the back.
Hi, my name is Yvette Johnson from New York, Observe 26. My question is, on the return, was it planned to land in the water or land? And also, as a follow-up question, was any of it a spiritual sensation?
Was it what kind of sensation?
Spiritual sensation.
Okay. We do plan to land on the land. That's our nominal landing, it's a good thing. It's a little bit firmer when you land. But the Soyuz can, if you have to, it can land in the water, and we actually do water survival training when we're in Russia, and they put you in the capsule and they'll drop you in the water, and you need to be able to get out of your suit, get on your flotation devices and survive. So we're comfortable that if we do have to land in the water, we will survive. A spiritual experience, we can all define that differently, but you definitely, the whole experience from launch to living in space for a long period of time and coming back, it can't help but to change you and to change your perspective on the world. And whether you call that spiritual or something else, it's a cool experience, and you don't come back the same. And it's like any life experience. You can, if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you see that for the first time, that can be spiritual because you're just like, wow, this is pretty cool. So I would say yes, it was a good life-changing experience for me, and I hope I get a chance to go back, and I hope that those kids that are here get a chance to go there and do things even cooler. And I look forward to sitting there and listening to their stories, telling me about how it was to, walk on Mars or to walk on the moon.
Back left.
Hi, Cindy Hasselbring, math teacher from Milan, Michigan. And my question for you is, what's the biggest adjustment when you go to space, and is it the same each time you've gone?
It was pretty similar this time as my shuttle flight, where it took me a couple of days to feel normal. I've just felt a little bit of that, space adaptation sickness, they call it, where you just don't feel right. It's not debilitating or anything like that. It just takes you a couple of days to get used to it. So it was really similar to my shuttle flight, but it also takes you some time not to lose things. I know I lost my spoon on the very first day, and that's kind of embarrassing because you got to eat with your spoon, and then it's like, well, anybody find my spoon? And they found it once, and I put it down on the table, and I thought it was secure, and then I come back later, and my spoon was gone. So they're not life-threatening, but they're embarrassing moments, and it takes you some time before you go, okay, the table gets bumped, I need to put my spoon over here. And Don tried to tell me that, but of course, you know, we're all a little bit stubborn and slow to learn, and it took a little bit of time. And so it takes a period of time before you get used to it again, that things float away. And it can be very beneficial in some ways, but it can also be kind of frustrating in others.
Okay, we'll do the center back, and I'm going to come back to the front, and then we'll do this side.
Hi, good afternoon. Glenn Gonzalez from Baltimore, Maryland. Just a quick question for you. I've heard from other U.S. astronauts that learning Russian is difficult. Was it difficult for you?
Yes. It really is. It's hard. And, you know, I speak a little bit of Spanish. You'll hear how bad it is here shortly. And my Russian is way worse. And, you know, they say if you can speak one language, it helps you learn another one. So maybe my Russian would be even worse if I didn't speak Spanish. But it's hard. It's, you know, the letters are different. It's just a different language, and it is difficult. But it's pretty cool when you learn it, and now you can, you know, cruise around Moscow and get what you need. So it was fun to learn the language, and it's just neat to be able to communicate with your Russian crewmates. And it was also neat to be out there and just talking to people that have never, you know, all their life, you know, they hear about Americans, you know, we've had problems, you know, the Russians and, you know, America, we've had all our issues, but here we are working together. And so it was cool to be part of that and to be able to share, you know, just, you know, part of who we are and our stories with the Russians. And, you know, you can't do that unless you learn the language. So it's worth all the pain, and they're very patient because they, when you hear us speak Russian, it's not pretty.
Front row.
Oh.
Hi, I'm from Korea. I'm glad to be here today. And my question is, what should I do in order to be an astronaut?
Good question. There are certain things that you have to do to become an astronaut, and one of those is to have some kind of a degree in really anything that's science, engineering, mathematics. We have a wide range of astronauts. I'm a geologist. We have engineers. We have medical doctors. We have the pilots. So I would tell people, study what you like, because then it makes it a lot easier and makes life a lot more fun if you're doing what you like to do. But anything like that in the sciences will help you. And then apart from that, it does take a lot of luck for us to get where we are. You know, we all have our different life experiences that we bring, but when you look at the people that come out to interview to become astronauts, and we have some here that will be going out there shortly, so good luck. Everybody's good. I mean, we all, you know, you have a certain education, you have these certain experiences, so am I any better than someone else that interviewed? Probably not, but there might have been something at that time that they thought that they wanted to make our office diverse and to make it more of a team. And so that's why I would tell people, do what you like to do, because there's not many astronauts and it's hard to become an astronaut. But if you're doing what you love to do, if you don't make it, your life is still good. And if you're enjoying what you're doing and you show that to people, it just makes you a better person to be on your team. And so it's hard to answer that question because there's no formula on how to become an astronaut. But do the basics that you need to do, but then have fun along the way and just build up your experiences. You know, like I talked about earlier, know how to think on your feet, work with your hands. All those things are really beneficial. And then just be nice. I mean, when you got to live with somebody for 3 days in a Soyuz capsule, you don't want to be with somebody who's a jerk. I mean, it's just so. You know, I don't care how smart you are. You know, I don't want to live and work with you. So, it's just, you know, being a good person and enjoying what you're doing.
Hi, Carissa Sidor, Charizardi. I was wondering, what is your favorite experiment or job that you got to do while you were living on the space station?
Wow, everything was good. In terms of a job, it was really neat. capturing the HTV with the robotic arm. That was a pretty exciting time, and then also supporting Sunny and Aki on their spacewalk. But there are a couple of experiments. The one is called BASS, and it's looking at fire, and who doesn't like looking at fire? And so this guy has a cool experiment. He's out of Cleveland, and he has these different materials that you ignite. It's all inside of a chamber, so we're not going to burn up the space station or anything. And they have cameras everywhere, but we do have a window where we can actually see the flame. And so once we ignite something, we're changing the airflow to see how the flame reacts. And just some of the flame patterns that came out of there were just incredible. So I think working with fire, and there's another one looking at how the capillary action with water will help the fluids move. And working with these guys out of Portland, they're totally psyched about their experiment. So you talk to them on the radio, and it's like, you guys are in Portland, man, you're drinking a lot of coffee, because they're excited. They're, Joe, do this, and you can't help but get excited when you work with those guys. But the stuff they're doing really is, it's incredible. So to be a part of those things, it's pretty cool.
Down the front.
Good morning, Joe. Fernando Pascual from Puerto Rico. In terms of the future of space, 15, 25 years from now, I read an article where Elon Musk was expressing his vision to bring people to Mars. How close or far away are we from that? And what's the involvement of people like you in that process?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is really an exciting time for me to be part of NASA. It's an exciting time for those young students that are out there, because I think we're going to do a lot of exciting things in the future. We're working with the Space Launch System. We're working with Orion to try to get us to be able to go further than the space station. Whether we have the commercial companies doing that, or whether it's NASA doing it, to me, I think it's all moving in the right direction. It's going to take time. I couldn't tell you the time. One of the good things about training for a space flight is that that's all you do. And so I'm trying to get up to speed on all the different timetables for the different launches and things like that. But I'm not going to be surprised when we're walking on Mars and we have people living there, when we go back to the moon. And so I have no doubt that that's where we're going to go. And NASA is definitely leading the charge in going in that direction. It's funny, I'll talk to people sometimes and they go, oh, the space program's over. And well, it's not over. We have astronauts living on the space station, and we're looking at exploration. We're looking at going further than we've ever been. So it's an exciting time. And my role will be to share my experiences as a crew member that's been into space, working with different people at NASA or with contractors to help get us that new vehicle. So I'm excited to be here, and I hope other people are excited in the direction that we're going. And don't become depressed or bummed if things take longer than you expect, because going into space is hard, and there's always going to be setbacks, but we're definitely going in the right direction.
And for those watching online, you can find out more information about the future of American human space flight at nasa.gov/exploration. So I'd encourage all of you to visit that page soon. We'll go down to the front.
Excuse me. Hello, Joe. Gary Lang, W3GTL. Did you or your crewmates use amateur radio in space?
Yes, I did. We all did, and it's pretty cool. We have a student here, a young man that was all set up to talk to us while we were up there, but we had technical difficulties, so it didn't work out. So I'm glad he made it today to ask his question. And it was always fun. Being a school teacher, I always enjoy being around the kids, and it's you never know what they're going to ask you, which is always exciting. And so to have the ham radio, it's a great asset for schools to use, because a lot of education goes into it. It's not just them, picking up the phone and talking to us. And for us, it's a neat opportunity. I spoke to kids from all over the world that get a chance to do that. So it's a wonderful tool, and sometimes it's hard to stop what you're doing to float over to the Russian segment to switch gears and talk to kids. But when you get done, it was always just a wonderful experience. So it's cool.
So in a few minutes, we'll have the opportunity to transition to an opportunity for some Spanish questions. Can I just see full show of hands? Everybody still want to ask questions? Okay, all right. So let's do front, center, then lower right, and then we'll hit the middle And then we'll hit that back right. Okay.
Yes, I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I came all the way out here to see you.
Thanks.
We're very proud of your accomplishments. I'm also a physician, and I'm wondering, when you get sick up there, do you have the medicine up there, or they give you instructions on it? How does it work?
We do get a lot of training on, a lot of medical training, so we all get to a certain level, and we have a good supply of medications, equipment, if things were to happen. So we're pretty well prepared for most things that could happen to us. The best resource we have is we can communicate with the ground. We can always call the flight surgeons that are on console and mission control all the time. So we're really well prepared. We have tools up there that we could use. We do ultrasounds as part of an experiment, so there's a lot of remote guidance of things that we have up on orbit that we could do if we had a problem. But in the absolute worst case situation, if we had to, we could get crew members into a Soyuz and then come back and be on the ground in a few hours. It might not be in Kazakhstan where we hope to be, but they can tell us, hey, this is the right time for you to leave and go somewhere. So we're very well prepared for probably most things, and if it was beyond that, we'd just come home.
Okay, lower right.
Hi, my name is Heather Hinkle, and I work for the U.S. Geological Survey, so I'm pretty interested to hear you talk about your background as a geologist. And I was wondering if, being up in the space station, if you had time to keep up with the discoveries going on in Mars, and if so, what did you think about that?
Yeah, we did, and I think it's great. It's really exciting, and when they had the landing, we were able to pipe up NASA TV to us so we could watch that, and we could watch the celebration. As a geologist, of course, it's exciting, but I think for anybody who's been watching that, it's pretty neat to see the work that they're doing. The folks at JPL, they do a great job, and to see what these rovers have been able to do, and now this newest one that is able to do a lot more sampling, it's exciting. And I think it's just that's just one small thing that NASA's doing now that is just going to help us in the future. And so be ready for more exciting things, because who knows what Curiosity is going to find for us.
Okay, go back to the right, back right. Sure.
That's why I'm not picking the questions.
Hi, Ed Edwards, Baltimore, Maryland. When you land, are you landing anywhere near Kazakhstan, anywhere near the Baikonur?
Yeah, we are. So we're just we're a few hours away from where we launch, and so it's we have a few different staging areas where the search and rescue team will be to get us. But yeah, we're very close to where we actually launch.
Steerable at all?
Not only in when you do the deorbit burn. From when you do that burn, that dictates where you're going to land. And so in terms of being steerable, it's just knowing when to do that burn, and all of that is calculated. And so if your burn goes too long, you'll go somewhere else. If it goes a little bit shorter, you'll land somewhere else. So by knowing when you do the burn and exactly where you do it, we'll tell them where we're going to land. So they have it down to a pretty good science.
So I promise back left or center left. Yes.
Exactly. Your left-hand
side. Hi, Eric Garner at Kaya Roth. Were you up there long enough to miss things about living on Earth? And if so, what were they?
I guess the correct answer is yes. But if you don't tell anybody, no. When you're in space and you never know when you're going to go back, you hope to go back. We all, we're astronauts, that's what we like to do. But you never know if you're going to have that opportunity. So you really enjoy every moment of it, and you're going to come back to Earth for the rest of your life. So it's kind of like being on a great vacation spot that, you love it, and you're not missing your house while you're there, but it's always nice to get home. And so there are things you miss. Definitely the weather, having the sun shine on you, the wind, the smells. Of course, my family, I better say that so I don't get in trouble. All of those things you miss, but the time that you have up there is so precious that you really make the most of every moment that you're up there. And it's hard to miss things when you're really having a great time and you're doing some pretty cool work. So yes and no, I guess, is the worst answer you're ever going to get.
Yep.
Hi, Joe. I'm at Miss Linda 22, and I have a question from Twitter from IMT. And she wants to know, could you see the effects of global warming while you were on the ISS?
Well, global warming, it's a very slow process, and so we, of course, don't see anything, sudden that's going to go, whoa, there's, global warming. But one thing that that NASA does a great job of, and the astronauts are a big part of it, is taking pictures while we're up there. And you can go on the NASA website and you can just see thousands of pictures. I was up there with Don Pettit, and he took a crazy amount of pictures. But if you were to look at pictures that that we've taken today, and look at pictures that were taken 3, 5, 10 years ago, you can definitely see changes on the Earth that are occurring because the Earth is warming. So again, my answer is always a yes and a no. You see it, but you're not seeing it in real time.
Okay, by the mic. How about right here? Right, yep.
Hi, I'm Denise Ryant, and on Twitter, I'm Birder Girl. Thanks for keeping an eye on the fires in Colorado this year. I have friends and colleagues there, and wondered what other environmental lessons you learned looking back on Earth, because you realize it is a small world after all.
It really is a small world, and we do have this unique opportunity to be able to see certain things that are going on. And even though you have satellites that are up there, if something happens real time, you have an astronaut that can pick up a camera and go look out the window if you're at the right place at the right time. I know our Russian cosmonauts took a lot of pictures of some flooding that was happening on their part of the world. So you see that. Of course, some of the storms that came over the U.S., we were able to get pictures of those. So I know that we share this planet, we have our boundaries, but it's really easy to see in space how everything is interconnected. When you see, dust coming off of Africa, you know where it's going. So we're, if you talk to students, they may live in their town, but we all live on this planet, and when you're in space, it's really easy to see that.
Yep.
Hi, Joe. Isaac Rogers. Do you have any stories about culture shock or surprising customs from your crew members?
There's always, there's probably a lot of stories that we can talk offline, but I was a Peace Corps volunteer, so I'm kind of used to experiencing different things, and that's when we talk about kids talking to other students around the world. I think that's very important because we are going to have these culture shock moments. It seems like every time you go to Japan, they want to feed you food that you've never seen before, and so part of it is the food. So I don't know if there was anything that was shocking other than having the chance to get to know people on a deeper level than you would otherwise. Going to a Russian colleague's birthday party and seeing how they celebrate a birthday party, and you have your way of doing that in the States, but that's a little bit different. So other than eating fish that are still kicking as they go down into my stomach, there was nothing too shocking. It was all really just an enjoyable experience, and that's part of the cool stuff of visiting other places and getting to know those cultures a little bit deeper than you would just going on vacation.
In the center.
Hi, my name is Gloria Lloyd. I'm at Gloria Lloyd on Twitter, and I asked you a question in space while you're on the space station. So my question for you on Earth is, what is your favorite moment that you've ever spent in space?
Every day is good in space. There's never a bad day. But I would say that there was a time where I was the only U.S. crew member, so we were a crew of 3. And just at that point, because of the solar activity and where the station was, just right place at the right time, we had some really great, the Southern Lights. And so to be looking in the cupola and just seeing this just incredible, light show that, the Earth is producing, and seeing all of that is a pretty special moment, just because it was your own special time, and, you're enjoying this view. And after I had a few minutes of it, then I felt guilty, and I called my Russian crewmates over to share it with me. But some of my favorite photos were taken looking out the window at that time.
Let's take a couple more. We'll do back left, and then Beck, I'd like to do the front after this.
Hi, my name is Bryce Smithwick. My question was, did you have any like internal changes or like external changes in your body when you came back to Earth?
It takes a little bit of time to get used to coming back to Earth. Carla, that was there, the photographer, saw me. It's hard to walk for a while. Your balance is kind of thrown off. So you saw in the video where they were helping me walk to get onto the helicopter. So that takes a little bit of time. My muscles all felt great because we do work out those couple of hours every day. So I think for me, and everybody's different. Some people have no effects. Some people it takes longer. It took me about maybe a day or two before I could walk without bumping into a door. I think I probably bruised my right shoulder just bumping into doors every now and then. So that takes a little bit of time. But once that's done, after a week, I was able to drive a car, and the exercise we're doing up there now really gets your body coming back feeling really, really good.
Okay, in the front row.
Hi, my name is Trevor Gowan, and I wanted to ask you about your time in the Peace Corps and then your time up on the International Space Station and how you view it as an educator, educating young people about going beyond their boundaries and sort of reaching out as scientists, as students, and in other fields, and how you think NASA can sort of leverage that. Thank you.
Wow, that's a good question. Being in the Peace Corps was a great experience for me, and I lived out in a really small rural community that was, of course, different than growing up in Southern California, and kind of pushing yourself to, to find out what your boundaries are always a good thing. And being a Peace Corps volunteer, you definitely do that. You're put into an environment that, of course, you're not used to. And I was working as an educator there, so you kind of bring part of your U.S. experience, but then, you're in this foreign environment. So being in the space station, it's a similar environment where now you're somewhere that you may not have been before. It is uncomfortable, and you have to get used to living there. So I think it was a great experience for me to have one to lead to the other. And again, for the kids that are watching, it's important to to find out what your boundaries are and what you're comfortable at doing, and just trying new things, whether it's trying a sport you've never done before, studying something you've never studied before, and just to find out what you're capable of. And I think most people will be surprised that when you're put into a certain environment that you are going to excel and you're going to do well. And that's what NASA does all the time, and I think that's what we need to go to Mars and go further, is to put ourselves in these uncomfortable situations and to really push us to our boundaries.
Right here.
Good morning. Hart Sastrodoyo at HB Sastrodoyo. What's the difference between an educator mission specialist and a regular mission specialist? And has that role changed, if any, considering only 3 of you were selected as an educator mission specialist?
Really, there's no difference other than what our background is. So we have, educator mission specialists, so it means we were, teachers before we came to NASA. We also have, the physical scientist mission specialist. We have, the doctor mission specialist. So kind of the educator, since there's only 3 of us that came in at that time, I think that title at the front stuck just because we were different than the rest of the Corps that came in. So really, that title is just more talking about our background, but not what our roles are within the astronaut office.
Okay, all right, so now we have an opportunity. We're going to throw the show over to my colleague at the Kennedy Space Center, Andre Adorno, who should be, the disembodied head of Andre should be appearing. There we go. Right in front of us through the magic of the internet. So Andre, the show is yours, and we'll take over a Spanish Q&A portion here.
All right, thanks, Trey. Bienvenido a todos nuestros televidentes. Y bueno, nuestra primera pregunta viene de Miriam Cadiz 93. ¿Qué es para usted lo más impresionante de viajar al espacio? ¿Con qué momento se queda?
Good. Make sure I understand the question. Yo creo que tener seres humanos que están en el espacio es algo que es como muy impresionante, porque estamos ahí en un ambiente donde no debemos ser porque es difícil. Y yo creo que el tiempo que yo estaba mirando allá en el cúpula, esa ventana que tenemos ahí, donde tú puedes ver la Tierra y ver que esa vista que preciosa es en la Tierra, eso siempre voy a tener en mi mente. So my answer really was, just having human beings in space is pretty cool. We're in an environment that, of course, we weren't born to be in space, and so to have us there. And then some of my favorite moments are looking out the window and looking at the Earth and seeing how cool it is and that wonderful place that we live.
All right, nuestra próxima pregunta viene de Manu Díaz, 07. ¿Desde qué edad decidiste seriamente ser un astronauta?
Pues cuando yo era un niño, yo tenía como 7, 8 años. Mi abuelo tenía unas films de las misiones de Apolo y de ese momento yo quería ser un astronauta, pero eso fue un sueño. Y como las cosas en la vida, yo fui a la universidad, trabajé como geólogo y no pensé que yo iba a ser astronauta, pero cuando yo estaba dando clase en Florida y yo vi que ellos querían un maestro para ser astronauta, de ese momento yo pensé eso y ahora yo puedo lograr mis sueños. So when I was a kid, my grandfather had these Apollo tapes back on the old reel-to-reel, so that's how old I am, we'd show those things, and he had some cool tapes of the Apollo missions. So as a kid, you watch those, and of course you want to become an astronaut, but life takes you in different directions. I, studied geology and went off on a tangent and never really thought about becoming an astronaut until I was teaching school, and I saw that NASA was looking for educators to become an astronaut. And so at that point I said, wow, I might be able to realize that dream of someday becoming an astronaut.
All right. Nuestra próxima pregunta nos viene de Lucía Gómez, 96. ¿Qué formación física y académica se necesita para poder llegar a ser astronauta?
Pues tiene que estudiar las ciencias, ingeniería, matemáticas, obligado, tiene que estudiar uno de esos temas. De los físicos, las pruebas que tienen que pasar médicos, esos son muy fuertes porque no queremos un problema cuando estamos ahí en el espacio y yo creo que esa es la parte más difícil de ser astronauta porque para ir allá por 6 meses es muy difícil y tiene que pasar muchas pruebas y tú puedes tener algo que no es malo de la salud, pero con eso no puedes ir al espacio. So in terms of schooling, like we talked about, you need to have your sciences, the engineering or mathematics. The physical, when we talked about becoming an astronaut, I guess a big part that I didn't talk about when I talked about being lucky is that there are certain medical guidelines that you have to pass, and you can be in great physical shape, but there might be a test that you don't pass, and because of that, either you can't be selected to the astronaut office or maybe you can't do a long duration flight. And the guidelines were different for a 2-week shuttle flight than it is for a 6-month mission, and they're different for a 1-year mission. So the studying and doing that part is easy. The medical part, you really don't have any control over that other than being in good physical condition.
Y yo creo que tenemos una última pregunta que nos viene de la audiencia. Creo que JC Gibbs está en la audiencia y le va a hacer la pregunta final.
So we have a question in the audience by Spanish. We just need to get JC a mic if we could here on the side. Thanks.
Oh. Hola.
Hola. Sí, JC Gibbs de Panamá. Habías mencionado anteriormente que te gusta mucho hacer food sampling y yo escribo de comida, así que me interesa saber si hay algún plato puertorriqueño que te gustaría poner un zip, ¿cómo se llama? La bolsita esa que se come en el espacio para que esté en el menú.
Oh, ¿en el espacio?
Sí.
Oh.
¿Le traduzco la pregunta para que entienda o usted lo traduce?
Yo tengo mucho. So of course I like food, and of course I like Puerto Rican food, and there's some Puerto Ricans here that did not bring me any Puerto Rican food. We'll talk more about that later. So what would I take up there? I think that un arroz con gandules con un poquito de lechón puede ser. Podemos poner en una funda ahí y mandar eso. Los pasteles, sí, también. So There's, of course, the rice and the, is it pigeon peas? Pigeon peas is a gandula, see? Some pigeon peas. And so that kind of rice mixture with pernil or lechon, so some kind of a pork, I think would survive the trip and still taste good.
Joe, para seguir con el plato que acabas de mencionar. And that's going to put the end to our Spanish portion. I'm going to throw it back to my colleague Trent. Thanks again for your time, Joe, y a todos nuestros televidentes. Gracias por seguirnos.
Gracias a ti. Gracias por su apoyo.
Well, thanks to everyone who submitted questions on the NASA Spanish Twitter account, which, as you probably saw, was at NASA_ES. And thanks for the question here. So now we'll return back to the question and answer session in English here in the auditorium, and we will start right here.
Hi, I'm Pam Stewart from Portland, Oregon, and I'm also a geologist and was wondering how you get to use your geology training.
Yeah, you can send me to the moon and I could use it a lot more, so that would be really nice. So, but I think that even though on my mission I didn't specifically use my geology training, it's the experiences that we bring as a collective group in the astronaut office, which is helpful. Geologists, we're used to, you're looking at a small sample and trying to figure out the big picture from that small sample. So we have a certain skill set that you learn as a geologist that we bring to the office, just like a medical doctor would or a physicist. So I think that even though I wasn't up there identifying geologic features from space, I think the skills that we learn as a geologist are really beneficial. But if we look at the training we're having for new astronauts, we are looking at getting very specific geology training so that we can, of course, the goal, going to Mars, going somewhere else that we can use that training, but also being on orbit and maybe seeing something as a geologist that you can share with people. So that's an ongoing process to better train all the astronauts on becoming better geologists.
Okay, back center.
Yeah, Kevin Cannerin from Pennsylvania. I had a question. We saw a lot of pictures of the view of the Earth and everything like that. Have you ever found yourself looking in the other direction, and what was that like?
Dark. But it's cool because, the stars are just incredible when you're up on the space station, and you can it's amazing, how many are out there. Of course, if you live somewhere that you can see the stars, you realize that. But to be up there and see it's pretty cool. One thing that's weird, Sonny and I were talking one day, looking out the cupola, and it was dark. We were probably over the ocean, so everything was dark, and you had no sense of motion. When you're up there and you can see the Earth, you know that you're moving. You can see the Earth and all of that. So it is strange, and I think that when people go to Mars and go further out there, it's going to be a weird sensation to not have anything outside to tell you that you're moving or where you are. But it is cool looking in the opposite direction.
Okay, back. Yep, back right.
Hi, my name is Roberto Martinez. I'm a computer engineer from Puerto Rico as well. I just wanted to know, how has your ethnic background impacted your career and your time in space?
Having the different backgrounds, we've talked about this, going to see other cultures and having, whether you're a geologist or a astronomer, diversity is good. We all know that, and NASA puts a lot of effort into having a diverse workforce, but in particular, the astronaut office does the same. When you look at when we select astronauts, we do look at the current state of the astronaut office, and we try to find those technical backgrounds that will give us a well-rounded group, because through diversity, you're better able to solve problems. You can work together with other cultures. And so the same goes with your ethnic background. You just bring something different to the table. So for me, it's growing up in a Puerto Rican household in Southern California, was a learning experience for a first-generation, person living in the United States. So I think all of those skills and those experiences made me a better astronaut and someone, able to work easily with the Russians, with the Japanese, the Europeans, and it just having that diversity, you can't stress enough how important that is.
In the center.
Hi, Julian Burton, random Twitterer, and all of us are out here kind of exemplifying the ease of communication that we take for granted on Earth, tweeting 2 or 3 times every 30 seconds. And I'm wondering what the experience is like of keeping in touch when you're up on the space station, with people, friends and family, getting news from Earth, and how your experience of that and the technology has changed between your missions as well.
Yeah, it's kind of frightening that you guys are here sending messages out every 30 seconds. You're really, we're in pretty good touch with the world while we're up on the space station. When I joked about not missing, being on Earth, you have so much contact with the Earth and your family and friends that it's almost like being on vacation somewhere that you just don't have great internet service. And you can probably go to places on Earth where you're going to have less communication than you do while you're on the space station. So we get email a few times a day. It has to be sent up. And so you might go a half a day without getting any email. So having a conversation going back and forth on email can take a lot longer. I was able to speak with my family once a week, the video conference. My mom was telling me, "I'm so glad you're here." I'm like, "Mom, I talked to you more while I was on space than we do now." I mean, every Sunday I spent 20 or 30 minutes, they could see me and I could see them. So, you have that contact. We have the telephone that's up there. You probably heard about it. It's a great phone because we can call people, but they can't call us. So it's a pretty sweet deal. So there's a lot of ways for us to communicate back and forth. It has changed over time in terms of having the phone capability. The email access has gotten better. We now have internet. It's like a slow dial-up, but when you have a certain antenna, you can have that also. So we keep getting better and better all the time in terms of having that communication, being able to communicate and have video with our family. So we're well connected while we're up there. So don't feel bad for those guys when they're up there.
Okay, back right.
Hi, Danielle McCulloch from Alexandria, Virginia. And my son and I were wondering what your children thought about having a dad in space.
I think they think it's cool. You know how kids are. They're excited for a few minutes, and it's like, all right, they move on to something else. But even though they're older, I think it's pretty neat. They'll post pictures on their Facebook and their social media. So I think that even though kids don't always want to admit it, there's little bits of evidence out there that they think it's cool.
Okay, we'll stay with the back center.
Hi, my name's Andrea Bitely, and when I get back to my office this afternoon, I have to write a blog post about this experience.
Uh-oh. Be nice.
I will, don't worry. But my question to you is, what do you feel is the next step for commercial space? I mean, you had the awesome experience with Dragon. Do you feel like we're going to see more private space interaction at the International Space Station?
I do. I think that the work that SpaceX has done was a great job. It's quite the accomplishment, and I think it's definitely going to lead to more. If you look at the space industry, I think it's going to be a lot like aviation, where you have the private enterprises taking over on some of the tasks that none of it's easy, but some of the simpler missions that go on, and more. I think that once you get that commercial sector moving on this and seeing that they can do it and they can make money doing it, which is what the commercial companies want to do, I think you're going to see more coming in. You're going to get more experience out there. So I think we'll see more going to the International Space Station. There are other contracts that are out there. I think that they're going to do things that we don't even know right now. And that's part of what NASA does, is that we will start things and we get the ball rolling, and then we're happy to hand it over to other people to continue doing that. So I think we're all excited about the commercial companies that are out there and the work that they're doing.
To the left.
Hi, my name is Angela Gibson, Agilista AG on Twitter. And my question is for your experiences moving from a teacher to an astronaut, and for all the teachers out there, the teachers that themselves are inspired, as well as trying to inspire their children. What can you tell them about what they can do in their classroom and for themselves as well, please?
Yeah, going from teaching middle school kids to becoming an astronaut, it's easy being an astronaut. So if you go to a classroom and you see the work that teachers do every day, it is really, it's impressive, and it's a profession that I think doesn't always get the credit that it deserves, but really when you're in a classroom every day with kids and you've got 30 kids that you need to take care of, you never know what you're going to get, especially with middle school kids. Those kids are crazy. But they're fun and they're kids, and that's why I like doing it. But it's hard work, and so the skills that you learn as a teacher, being able to manage those kids, learning how to to think on your feet. You can have your lesson plan, but I guarantee you it's not going to work that way when you get into your classroom that day. So being able to adapt, those are all skills that we use as astronauts. So I think there's no better profession to have that type of experience to make you a good astronaut, because it's a lot of the same skills. And to the teachers, what they're doing, they should be commended on all the work that they're doing. It's incredible. And when I was a teacher, of course the kids didn't want to see me. My autograph, that meant they were going to see the principal. So they didn't want that. Where, now I go in there and they're all really excited. And so it's hard to be a teacher, and it's hard to inspire those kids every day because they get so used to seeing you. But I would say to them, the reason you're doing it is because you enjoy it. You're not doing it for the money. We all know that. So I would tell them, just keep doing what you're doing. It's really important. And when you look at the products of what you do every day, it's something to be proud of. When those students come back to you, you know you've done a good thing. And we're always looking for more teachers to become astronauts. So if that's a dream of yours also, don't give up on that dream yourself.
Don't tempt Angela. She might take you up on that.
All right.
By now. Let's go right back here.
Hi, I'm Rick Hennigan. If it were completely up to you, how long would your stay on the space station be?
Well, I know 4 months wasn't long enough, and I guess if you told me I was never going to go back again, and I only had one chance to be there, I don't know if I can give you a number. I know it's going to be at least a year. Then you might be ready to come home, and it depends. If you're on the space station, I think a year mission would be good. 4 months was great. It was enough time to get comfortable and really enjoy what you were doing, but you're not sitting there counting down the days going, man, when am I going home? Which, that can happen no matter where you are after a long period of time. So if I knew I was going back, 4 to 6 month missions are great. If you told me, Joe, this is your last time to go to space, I'd say, well, let me stay for a year and then see if I can get back to you at that point and see if I want to stay longer. But it's a neat thing to have, and that your time is limited, so you want to stay as long as you can.
In front.
Hi, my name is Fernando. How do you see the amount of astronauts in the future? Are there going to be more, or do you think it's going to stay the same?
Good question. It really depends on what we're doing. There's some magical formula that somebody understands that tells you from all the work that we're doing how many astronauts that we need. And so that's why we're in the process right now of hiring a new class. So we'll be bringing in, I don't know the exact number, probably somewhere around the tens, new astronauts to come in to support the work that we're doing on the space station and with exploration. So I don't see the office getting any smaller than it is now. I can see it definitely increasing in size as we start doing new missions. So for those kids that are out there that want to be astronauts, I promise you we're going to have more astronauts in the future. We're going to keep hiring them. There's a lot of work to be done. A lot of what we do is, of course, on the ground. We spend very little time in space. So there's a lot of work to be done as an astronaut. So that number it's going to keep going up.
Down the front.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Schmitz. I teach 6th grade science at Bayside Middle School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And a common question that my students had or asked me to ask you was, what does it feel like when you leave and re-enter Earth's atmosphere, and how long does it take for you to put on and take off your spacesuit?
It's a weird feeling when you're coming back into the atmosphere, because as soon as you do the deorbit burn, now you're starting to enter, so everything starts to get heavier. I remember on my shuttle flight just going, my arms were so hard to lift. The book that I had in my hand, I let go for a second, then it fell on the ground. So I had to pick it up with one of the tethers that I had on there, and it felt heavy. Your head feels heavy, and I'm thinking, man, how do people live on this planet? I mean, it's just, it's hard. I mean, only, that was after 2 weeks that your body forgets how hard it is to deal with gravity, and everything is difficult. But then you get over that pretty quickly, and we're good at adapting. So it's strange to feel the force of gravity on you, and to get out of the suit, it's challenging. Luckily, you have a small army of people that are helping you, which makes it a lot easier, but it's hard to stand up because of your vestibular system. So it does take a little bit of time. But I mean, in terms of actual minutes, probably 5 or 10 minutes to get out. So it's not, that's the time it takes to get out. But from when I landed, it might have taken us maybe 45 minutes to an hour for the whole process from when you get out to when they actually take it off. But gravity's hard, strong.
Let's go all the way to the very back row.
Hi, Joe. My name is Lindsay. I'm an experimental psychologist, and I was just wondering more about the interview process. I mean, you going in as a geologist, how did they get you doing, controlling the robotic arm? How did you go from that to doing that?
Yeah, it's boy, it's scary having you back there. I'm not sure what kind of notes you're taking. You can give my profile later. That's one of the cool things about being an astronaut is that you come in with your background, whatever it is, whatever your schooling is, whatever your life experiences are, but there are certain skills that you need to be able to pick up and to excel in order to become an astronaut. Being the ability to work the robotic arm, being able to do a spacewalk, being able to live in a confined space. And so NASA has a great training program. We do the best that we can when we hire people to find people that have demonstrated that they can adapt to different things. And when we talked about doing things you're not comfortable with, it's a great skill to have, because you get someone, I'm not a pilot, and a lot of us are not. And so we have to learn how to fly in a high performance jet. And so you're constantly doing things that are pushing your limits. So being a geologist, everything was kind of hard. It's hard to fly the robotic arm. It's hard to do the spacewalks. But NASA has a great training program. We have great trainers like Jeff that can take someone like me that doesn't have these certain skills yet, but they can get us there. And so it really is pretty neat to see how you can get someone like me and train them to do some of the work that we do on the space station.
Couple of minutes left, so we'll try to get through as many questions as we can here quickly. Let's go here in the center, and then Lauren in the back in the left.
Hi, Joe. Nick Pawan. I'm a professional firefighter in Maryland. So I know you guys did tons of training for emergency situations, any type of emergency situations. Did you have to use any of that training, or did you have any scary moments while you were up in space?
Well, thanks for the work you do. We appreciate all you do for our country. Luckily, no. We train for all of that, but we've been pretty lucky up to now that we have not had to use any of it. But that's what you train for it. If you train for it, then you never have to use it. So it's been great so far. Thanks.
My name's Shannon. As a fellow educator like yourself, I'm always looking for ways to really help inspire youth, especially youth around, of course, science and technology. And I was wondering if you had any message for youth that might be watching around bullying and harassment, something inspirational for youth that maybe have a particular interest in the sciences and might be experiencing bullying harassment, and maybe some encouraging words.
Well, I think that you talk about bullying, and it's a big topic that's out there, and I think most people have either seen it or experienced it, and we know the negative effects that has on people. So for those kids that are out there, whether you're experiencing it or you're seeing it, you need to let people know about it so that we can take care of that problem. And it's a serious issue that we have out there. And you're not going to get bullied because you like science, because science is cool. I don't care what people say. Every kid is a scientist. Every kid that's played in the backyard, that's looked at the moon, that's asked, why does this happen? Why is this green? Why is the moon there? those are scientific questions. So every kid is a scientist. And so I would tell them to be, be proud of what you're doing, be proud of who you are. And if you're experiencing anything like that, it's not your fault and you're not doing anything wrong, so let somebody know about it.
Okay, we're going to do 2 more questions. So back row here, Becky, and then one more on this side, Lauren.
Hi, thanks for letting me ask another question, Denise Ryan. So I heard a rumor from some Forest Service friends that you are going to be appearing at the Fiesta Bowl and that you're doing some more work with Smokey Bear. So I wonder if you would elaborate on that.
Wow, the rumors are out there. It's part of that is true. I'm going down to Phoenix for the parade before the game, and so I'll be out there, with Smokey going through the parade. So that'll be cool. And where we go with that is still to be seen. There's a lot that I think NASA and Smokey and the Forest Service, a lot of things that we can do together because we do have a lot of common goals. So I think you can expect to see me hanging out a little more with Smokey.
Hi, my name's Jason. I had a question about going from the construction and science of the International Space Station back towards kind of more exploration and going to Mars, near-Earth asteroids. What changes have you seen or do you anticipate within the astronaut office and with the international partnerships that NASA has?
So the space station, you're right, we had the construction part of it. And now that we've completed that, we're doing a lot more science. When you look at the space station, half of the science, when you're looking at a national lab part of it, we're doing things that will benefit Earth and practical things that people on Earth can go, okay, we are getting these benefits from the space station. And the other half are things that we're doing to help us go further and to explore. So I think that you're going to see that we're going to maintain that 50-50 balance. That's the purpose of the International Space Station. But the cool part about exploration is you never know what you're going to discover and where that's going to go. So I can't answer your part about where I think it's going to go. I think it's all going to go in this direction that's going to lead us going out further into space. So it's an exciting time, and I can't wait to see what we find out.
Unfortunately, that's going to have to do it. We're all going to get some Puerto Rican food. I don't know about you.
All right.
Just some of the
Yeah.
answers. I'm ready. For those of you joining online, the conversation doesn't have to stop here. We encourage you to visit www.nasa.gov/connect and find all the ways to find us on social media. You can, of course, get the latest news on the astronauts and the work they're doing aboard the International Space Station at www.nasa.gov/station. And you can get a full bird's eye view of just everything we have in the works for the future of American human spaceflight at nasa.gov/exploration. But before we go, please help me give a big NASA social thank you and send off to astronaut Joe Acaba.
Thanks. Thank you very much. You guys were great. This is my first one, so I liked it. We'll have to do another one. Thank you. Now where are we going for lunch?
Thanks.